We take you live to Queen's Park, where NDP leader, Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles is speaking. Let's listen to it.
This Premier still has no jobs plan. In fact, the closest we get is a scandal-ridden program that finds its way to strip club owners and party insiders. The government is being very quick to pat themselves on the back. You heard that from the finance minister today for things like cutting the HST for first-time home buyers. But Ontario is dead last when it comes to home building. Housing starts have completely collapsed. That is clear in this fall economic statement. We are at the lowest point they've been at in a decade, the lowest in Canada. And I want to make it very clear, this Premier is promising young Ontarians homes that just simply do not exist. Ce Premier ministre est en train de remettre ou promettre des maisons qui n'existent même pas à des jeunes pleins d'espoir. Today, Ontarians heard nothing that would bring them hope. Nothing in the face of record high unemployment, sky high cost of living, and an unprecedented economic threat. What we needed today, and what we have been very clearly demanding of the government, which is what we are hearing from working people every day in this province, is we needed a jobs plan. We needed a commitment to a real Buy Ontario First procurement strategy. People needed to know that their Premier cares the slightest bit about the working people of Ontario. And I want to say, today, in question period, you heard who Doug Ford, the Premier, is actually listening to. Because when I asked him what they were doing about a job strategy, he talked the whole time about how many CEOs are on the phone with him. And I got to tell you, that worries me. And I think that's going to worry a lot of working people, because it's pretty clear he's not listening to them. The Ford Conservatives have once again missed the mark with this fall economic statement, and yet again, it just seems like working people are going to keep paying the price. Une fois de plus, les conservateurs de Ford manquent la cible. Et une fois de plus, ce sont les Ontariens et Ontariennes qui en paieront le prix. Et avec ça, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Bell, our shadow critic, Minister for Finance.
Thank you very much, Marit. I've got to say, when I looked at this fall economic statement, I just saw a document that was chock full of disappointment. If workers were expecting the Conservatives to have a plan to help them keep their job or find a new one, they're going to be disappointed. Unemployment is the highest that we have seen in a generation. We have 700,000 people in Ontario looking for work. We have 1 in 4 young people who do not have a job. We're losing jobs in construction, in manufacturing, in agriculture. Doug Ford is a jobs disaster. Now, we heard today that, Doug Ford has got the country's CEOs on speed dial, but there's nothing in this fall economic statement, nothing significant in this fall economic statement for workers. Where is the support for workers? Where is the plan to make it easier to pay for rent? Where is the plan to make it more affordable to go to the grocery store and buy food? We look at the housing starts. Quite frankly, the Premier has thrown in the towel on fixing the housing crisis. Housing starts have collapsed. Housing has never been more expensive to rent or buy, and we have encampments in towns and cities across Ontario. There is nothing significant in this fall economic statement that is going to help parents and students. When you factor in population and inflation, we are going to be seeing cuts in our education sector, which means bigger class sizes, more violence in the classroom, and less support for kids with special needs. If you are a patient, you would hope that the government would invest in healthcare. But what we're seeing with this fall economic statement is when you factor in inflation and population growth, we are going to be seeing cuts. That means longer wait times in emergency rooms, longer wait times for surgery, greater difficulty in finding a family doctor. Quite frankly, I was hoping that today's fall economic statement would be a plan that invests in people, invests in Ontario, but what we got today was more fear and uncertainty. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Marit, what would you have liked to specifically see on unemployment in this document?
On what?
On unemployment.
Well, first of all, a plan. Any kind of jobs plan. any kind of plan. I would have liked to see the government talk about a real Buy Ontario First plan that actually closed the loopholes that exist currently for procurement. That allow for American companies to take on procurement contracts with the government. I would like to see it include municipalities. I would have liked to see some of these funds that they're talking about actually with some strings attached to ensure that we are talking about Canadian companies and Canadian jobs. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jessica?
Good.
Yeah.
What do you think of the fact that only $100 million has gone out the door in that Protect Ontario, I forget what the name of that one is, Protect Ontario Fund, I think?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have seen, maybe you want to respond to this one? Because I think it's been, interesting to note that. And certainly, like, what we have found is that the application process, if you can even call it that, it has a lot of similarities, and we're concerned that this may open the door to the kind of pay-to-play schemes that we've seen with the Skills Development Fund. Do you want to?
Yeah, that's right. So the Protect Ontario Fund is the biggest investment the government is making. It's opaque. We don't know who it's going to. We don't know if it's restricted just to Canadian companies. We don't know if there's ironclad agreements that comes with this financing. Can this government assure us that if a company gets money, no workers are going to be laid off? Can this government assure us that no executive bonuses are going to go out the door if a company gets this funding? And can this government assure us that if a company gets funding, that there's a firm commitment that they're not just going to pack up and go down south? We see none of those commitments in this Protect Ontario Fund. It makes us very concerned.
You would have thought they would have learned their lessons by now, eh? Anyways.
Marit, the finance minister just referred to the 1.5 million homes goal as more of a soft target at this point. Do you think the government is basically just waving the white flag on their housing target?
Yeah, you heard our shadow minister here say it. It looks like the government has thrown in the towel on building housing in the province of Ontario. And let's be clear about what that means as well, right? Not only does it mean that we're not building homes, any homes, let alone affordable homes that people can truly afford in the province of Ontario, but it also means that we have people who are construction workers, home construction workers, that can't find work at a time when we know there is a housing crisis. We desperately need homes. Nothing the government has tried has worked, clearly, and so they seem to have thrown in the towel.
Also a one-off line in the back of the FES about climate change and climate change targets and tracking. I wonder what you think of the government's decision to communicate it that way.
You know, given all the evidence that we've been presented with, I wonder if Doug Ford is a climate change denier. They have no plan to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. They have got no plan to protect our future from the climate crisis.
There is money going to the 401 feasibility study. Bethlen Falvey said today that they did award a contract, but we don't know how much. What are your thoughts on money going to this project?
I don't know how they sleep at night. You know, I'll just say it. People in this province, I think very few people really believe this is a real thing. The fact that they are choosing to waste billions of dollars on just the feasibility study alone for a fantasy tunnel project that seems to be the Premier's vanity project tells you everything you need to know about this government and their priorities. Look, even the Prime Minister refused to acknowledge that this was any kind of nation-building project. Nobody believes this is where we should be spending money right now. At best, even if it is feasible, which arguably it's not, it's going to be decades before we would begin anything like this. Right now, we have people in Brampton, in Ingersoll, in Windsor, in Oshawa, in all parts of Northern Ontario who are losing their jobs, and the government has no plan. They are wasting $100 billion on a tunnel that is the Premier's vanity project. You know, I think it boggles the mind, and it really speaks to this government's priorities. And I will also add, this is at a time, like, let's bring it back. This budget, this economic statement, what it's projecting will require massive cuts to the kind of supports that Ontarians need, especially in a time like we're heading into. Social services, healthcare, education. As my colleague here said in the legislature, if any parent out there is hoping that their child is going to have a smaller class size or any support increases in classrooms, this is not the budget for them. That's not coming. If anybody thinks that there's going to be more healthcare and hospitals opening up in the province of Ontario, that's not reflected in this budget. This is not a budget that cares about people.
Mark, can you just clarify, you're suggesting that the feasibility study is going to cost billions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I can't remember. I don't have that number in front of me, but yeah, I mean, no, I think
that
like.
would be a very interesting study if it cost billions.
Yeah, sorry. But I mean, I think we know that it's going to cost, well, look, I mean, I was just talking to some folks who were talking about another project that's costing billions for a feasibility study. The point is, that's their priority. Are you kidding me? That's the big project that they want to talk about. We've been, just this week and last week, bringing forward legislation to fix northern highways and make them safe. Real, tangible plan, actions that the government could take to make northern highways safe again. And they won't even look at that. Instead, they're talking again about this fantasy tunnel that the Premier wants. It's a vanity project. And I think it's very unfortunate that the Minister of Finance would prioritize it. Do you want to say anything?
I just want to also ask about on that same page where the greenhouse gas targets thing is mentioned opaquely. It also mentions changes to the Rebuilding Ontario Place Act to give them more authority to do, well, I'm not sure what. I don't know. Have you had a chance to look at that or have any idea what that may have something to do with infrastructure, water pipes or something? Any idea? Had a chance to look at that?
I haven't looked at that. I will say that my understanding in the first look at the fall economic statement is that there was nothing there that was, actually anywhere near the money that would be required to move the Science Centre. And that's very concerning to us because the Premier and everybody have promised repeatedly that, we'd get the Science Centre back, but at Ontario Place, and there doesn't seem to be any money behind that. So again, I mean, what we see once again is a lot of announcements, but no actual money, no real plan. It's just like, really, this is just, this plan isn't even worth the paper it's printed on.
All right, we saw some new numbers on long-term.
We've been listening to Ontario NDP Leader Marit Stiles responding to the fiscal update by the Ford government, taking a lot of shots of it.